Live from everywhere USA, it's Fox Across America with Jimmy Failla.
Oh, it sure is. And we are coming to you live from the greatest country in the world, broadcasting as we always do from the tippy top of Fox News headquarters in New York City. It is Fox Across America with Jimmy Failla, fired up in this hour. Why? Because we have, by all accounts, a congressional superstar in our midst, and she is joining us for a full hour. It wasn't really agreed upon. We just got her in the studio, barricaded the door, and now she is here from the 3rd Congressional District of Florida. Kat Cammack is in the house. Hey, girl.
Hey, girl.
Kat
hey.
Cammack, the studio audience, just going bananas. I mean, you can barely hear us over the pyrotechnics. And,
no, I'm totally here against my will. Someone please send help.
The non-consensual radio interview. Nice to see you.
It's so good to see you.
So, Kat, for everybody listening on 100 stations around the world, the Fox News app, or wherever you might be watching us on Fox News, Kat is here in studio. This is kind of our radio sleepless in Seattle because we have talked over the phone several times.
Yes.
But our in-person meeting, not quite the top of the Empire State Building. It actually, based on the decor of my studio, looks like we met inside a van that would promise you candy.
Yes, it is. It is a little bit pedophile-ish. I feel like we belong in maybe like the basement comic book stores. You know, I don't know.
This is the deal.
Do you drive a white van?
I do, not anymore. It was a licensing issue more than anything else. But no, I will have you know, this studio is adorned with the toys of my youth. That's why there's like a Millennium Falcon and a He-Man and all kinds of stuff going on over here, Kat Cammack. And basically, what I was trying to do for people walking into this show who take life a little more seriously than you do was remind them to chill out. Like, the guy's got his toys on the desk. You don't have to come in here and run talking points. You could just be a person. And one of the reasons I was so excited to have you on is you are a real person. I do consider you like a real person, like when I talk to you.
Well, that's what they tell me.
Yeah, at HR.
At HR.
Like
I'm allowed.
It's a little too real, Cammack. We're a little concerned over here.
Roll it in. Keep it in check.
But no, as a superstar congressional representative, Congresswoman, there are a lot of issues facing this country, and I thought it would benefit if you and I kind of led the nation through a grown-up talk about a series of issues. Well, I wanted to say this really, really quickly. The roles have been reversed in Washington because the Republican Party kind of is the party of the working class now, which is weird.
Not kind of. We are.
No question. But you know, that wasn't always the narrative. But as a guy, again, who did drive a taxi for a long time and will probably be driving one again soon based on how this interview is going.
Oh, yeah.
I kid, Kat Cammack. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Okay. I can tell you every one of like my grassroots pals now kind of in this moment where like gas prices are through the roof, they do feel like ignored. Like they're getting yelled at. Like, oh, we'll buy an electric car. Or just be mad at Putin. You're like, yeah, none of those two things pay for today's $5.19 gallon of gas. So the fact that you actually have invested in the working man, the working woman, the working they, the working them, I think is greatly appreciated. Do you feel that appreciation coming back, or is this the beginnings of the revolution?
Now, I feel like we're somewhat in it already. I mean, It's pretty clear that Republicans largely are the party of the working class, right? If you are a Wall Street guy or gal, if you are somehow politically connected and, you know, belong to a country club, you probably are a Democrat. Let's be honest. And I mean, for me, I'm married to a firefighter. I'm a 3rd-generation commercial sandblaster. People don't grow up and say, ooh, that's a sexy, I want to be a freaking sandblaster. I mean, no one signs up for that.
You've reached 970 Sandblaster. What are you wearing? A mask. Protective gear. Can you talk slower? Continue.
And no judgment here. But, you know, these are the people that are impacted most by big government.
Yes.
We're the ones that are actually filling up our own gas tanks. If you are in government for the last 40 years, like Biden or Pelosi, you haven't filled up your own gas tank in decades.
No way.
It's really easy to talk about these policies from the safety and comfort of armored vehicles, but when you actually are out there picking up groceries, trying to get your kids to school, and participate in after-school sports, make ends meet, if you're, heaven forbid, on a fixed income, you're really getting squeezed.
Yep.
People just they've lost faith in the big government ideals that the Democrats have, and that's where conservatives have come in and said, listen, we are you, and we are going to put policies in place that empower you, that make life better for you by getting government out of your way. It really is that simple.
Whoa, and the crowd goes wild. Representative Kat Cammack is in studio. If you just joined us, we're doing a full hour. Like, this is a grown-up radio hit right here.
Oh.
This is not, call into the show, couple of yucks, I'm out of here.
2 go in, only 1 comes out.
Only one's getting out alive. Now, as a third-generation sandblaster, like,
Yes.
you grew up in what? Like, just because I want to give you some background so everybody understands. Like, I grew up on Long Island in Levittown.
Mm-hmm.
It was the biggest post-World War II settlement for American GIs returning home from war. It was the greatest generation.
I did not know
America was kind of the first suburb.
Yeah.
William Levitt, who built it, and we grew up around a lot of veterans. I grew up around a lot of old men you should never make a sudden move around. You get, like, knocked out in the backyard.
So that's what happened to your face.
Well, there's that. Now, Kat Cammack taking shots at the champ. I love it. No, I love it. I usually pay a lot of money for this kind of talk. That's the one thing I keep saying about the gas tank. The gas station has become like a thinly veiled dominatrix because it takes all your money. It makes you feel terrible.
Ugh.
It's like you don't have to go on Craigslist anymore. You can just go over to Exxon and get yelled at by Mrs. 93 Octane.
Yeah, and you keep coming back.
But do you ever? But I grew up in that environment in Levittown, which is like very patriotic.
Yes.
Okay, I'm 44.
Yes.
So I grew up in a version of America that was America. Like, everybody was in on the joke. Hey, we're in America. We're like so lucky. Like, we really are, and it was like an amazing thing. And
You had flags out front of every house.
Everywhere.
Yes.
Now that's considered like aggressive, which is, we'll get into it. But it's funny, in 1986, they had unveiled the new refurbished Statue of Liberty. And it was like the biggest thing that happened to us in 4th grade. It was a big year for me, 4th grade. It was a happening year. They unveiled Lady Liberty, which was funny because she had scaffolding around her for 2 years, So it was weird that all of those construction men who whistled at women were now like on this giant woman for like 2 years. But then they took down the scaffolding and we had the Statue of Liberty and we were like, yeah, like we were into it. Reagan showed up. He spoke. So like I
This
grew
is
up.
America.
Yes. I grew up on like maximum strength America.
Not America. America.
America. Yeah. This is Fox Across America. We got an apostrophe in there. So did you grow up in this or did you like find Jesus later in the service? Like what is your situation?
So it was actually interesting. I tell people all the time, my mom actually was a Democrat.
Okay.
Grew up daughter of a single mom, but my mom was never overtly political. We were too busy, doing things and running a business and trying to survive,
Fanciest euphemism for day drinking I've ever heard. But continue. No, we were doing things.
We were doing things.
Wow.
Don't judge me. When you're growing up, we grew up on a small cattle ranch. I was a 4-H kid, but, we didn't have a lot of money or anything. We were, lower middle class. And, so we just knew what it was to work. I took my first steps as a kid, literally as a baby, on a job site. And, I spent my youth on the weekends and after school, helping my mom on job sites, whether it was sandblasting on a big portable job like a graffiti wall or a stadium, or the smaller jobs where we were literally sandblasting antique cars. Those were the things that I grew up doing.
Real
but
life.
When you're in the process of running a business, a small business, you don't realize it, but you're naturally being conditioned to dislike government. So EPA and OSHA and DOL, these inspectors are constantly coming in. I'm filling out quarterly tax documents, as a young teenager. I'm starting to get involved in the business and understand that none of the things that government has put in place is designed to make workers safer, customers safer or happier. It's all just burdensome red tape. And so I was naturally being conditioned to be a conservative. But it really came to a head in April of 2011. We got a phone call. I'm in the last year of my college experience, first in my family to go to college. And we find out that we are losing our ranch, our home.
Man.
We had 23 days to evict. And at the time, we didn't have anything. It was the market had crashed. Everything was terrible. We're broke, as you can imagine, like just broke. We put everything we owned into horse trailers. And I had enough money for one night at La Quinta on the side of the highway.
Hey, nobody likes a show off, pal.
I know. We live in fancy now. And after that, I moved my mom and I into an extended stay motel that was pay by the week, which I believe at the time it was $127 or $129 a week. So you can imagine we were living large.
Balling.
Right?
Balling with
Absolutely.
Kat Cammack.
Balling at the crack house. And you're homeless. And I started doing my homework, like trying to understand what the hell happened. And it came out that there had been a piece of legislation in Washington, 1,800-page bill. Republicans and Democrats had voted for it, but not a single one of them had bothered to read it. Because if they had, they would have seen that the language actually incentivized the big banks to push people out of their homes because they were going to get a tax credit for the interest on the loan. So why in the heck would any bank wait 30 years to get the completion of the loan?
They were getting they were getting it then. Okay, that's insanity. But that is, again, the government.
That's government
showing just a brazen indifference to the little person, which in this case was you, Kat Cammack, who is in studio right now here on Fox Across America.
And Jimmy is terrified.
I'm not. I'm actually okay. Listen, you don't understand, Kat. I've met people from other planets. I mean, I'm a cab driver. I've seen things, hobbits, anything you can think of. Do you know I once drove a woman to Brooklyn who talked to me with a sock puppet on each hand for a 30-minute ride?
I would have loved to have been in that car.
in weird ways, I feel like you were.
I was the woman.
I thought you looked familiar, Cammack. That's what you were doing back then.
That was Bertha and Beulah, okay, if you remember.
I'm not going to sit here and have you denigrate them. You can't. Yeah, do you get in trouble for using the wrong pronouns for sock puppets? I mean, what a dumb time to be alive. But we're going to straighten it out. Kat Cammack's in studio. We're back with more after this on Fox Across America. It is Fox Across America with Jimmy Failla, the Bidetica, flying off shelves. Kat Cammack in studio. That's the top line thought as we come back from break.
AKA Corn Pop.
The corn pop of politics. She is a bad woman. She is not messing around. Obviously, that sketch I wrote is fictitious. But I do believe Joe Biden press conferences could work as a sleep aid on some level. Do you not?
Oh, 100%. I mean, he's the best salesman for the product, right? I mean, doesn't he fall asleep in his own meetings?
That's what they say. And it's crazy. So I wanted to ask you this in Washington, because as an outsider, we're always joking, like, he's a little bit out of it. He's not really in charge. Is there like a prevailing sentiment around town that people don't really think he's on top of this and somebody else? Like, what's the word on the street, Cammack?
It's the worst kept secret in Washington.
Really?
He's not all there.
Really?
Oh my gosh. I've talked to some of my Democratic colleagues and they're like, yeah, no, we don't go over to the White House anymore. We're not invited because we just, there's been bad experiences. And I'm like, no, pray tell me more. Stop, tell me more. And they say, well, he's heavily managed by White House staff, and sometimes he'll get kind of lost. And there was actually a Democrat, I won't name who it is, but there was a Democrat colleague of mine who came back from a White House signing of a bill and said he forgot halfway through the signature of the bill what was going on, got a little glassy-eyed and confused, and they rushed everybody out.
Oh, my goodness, no.
Yes.
This is crazy talk.
I know. I'm not giving much comfort to the world right now.
But I say this all the time. Like I say, like Joe Biden is the only person who quits talking in the middle of a sentence because he's done.
Come on, man.
He's sending in the punt team on second down. And in any other generation, you take away the car keys. Ours gave him the nuclear codes, and it's a mess. And the reason I bring it up is obviously we can laugh about it, but I don't think world leaders take their cues from like liberal media shielding this fact, or as you said, a heavily choreographed White House staff.
Yes.
That creates the appearance that there's, someone running this thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what I think is our biggest problem in terms of foreign policy is I don't really think we're respected the way we used to be because he's in a frail condition. Do you think that influences like Vladimir Putin's behavior or Xi Jinping?
No, it's not. I think I know.
You do know, yeah.
Our credibility has been compromised wholeheartedly. And you look at what's happened. I mean, the intelligence community with everything that's happened now, so much of this is forward-facing information. We knew. I mean, I'm on the Homeland Security Committee. We knew about this months ago. I mean, the intelligence community had it down to the week of the invasion. So there's no one who can say with a straight face that this was a surprise or that there was no way that we could have known what was coming. But when you have a guy who stumbles and mumbles through every single interview, gets excitable and angry when pushed back or questioned from, left field, it's clear that he is going to be a weak leader. And we needed someone like Trump who had the strong personality, who was not going to take any crap. That's really what it comes down to, of the projection of strength, and that's how you achieve peace.
Well, it's funny because a lot of people say, like, I wish we had Trump. I wish at this point we had Barron Trump. You know what I mean? I would take any Trump. I mean, the kid played Call of Duty. He's a teenage boy. He probably knows foreign policy better than Biden. Like, my son and the kids playing Fortnite could solve this in a second. That is my, you know how much Fortnite my son Lincoln Failla played during the lockdown? Like, he didn't even know there was a lockdown till like the third month. He's like, you guys have been home the whole time?
What's been happening?
He came upstairs. He was shocked to see us. I was like, yeah, Lincoln. And I think that's the big concern is I think what happened, and this is where I try to explain to people on the left that the media fails them too.
Yeah.
Is the media's job is to hold people in power accountable. Mm-hmm. Okay, we can get into this in the next break because we only got 20 seconds to go. And I love it. But by not holding him accountable during the campaign process, I think he seduced this administration into thinking they would never be subjected to scrutiny. Mm-hmm. And now they are. And it's not, I don't know if you heard Kat Cammack, but it's not exactly going the best.
It's not going great.
We'll get into it in the next break. Kat Cammack is in the house for the full hour. I sound like Larry King. I got my suspenders on when we come back on Fox Across America. It is Fox Across America with Jimmy Failla, Kat Cammack, superstar from the 3rd Congressional District of Florida, joining me in studio. Kat Cammack, how is the federal mask mandate still a thing on planes? Do they just like that song I wrote? Why is it a thing?
It's a #1 hit on the...
Hey! In more ways than one. Look at that. There it is.
Yes.
But I really want to ask you this because I know we both do a fair amount of flying. Mm-hmm. I'm really wondering if there is just a genuine interest. Like, has it become a sport? Because there have been so many brawls on planes.
Yes.
You could make a Brad Pitt spinoff called Flight Club, where people just fly coach to get their head rammed into a window. You know,
I love it.
Crazy.
I love it. But no, the problem is that there's not enough snakes on planes. You know, I'm thinking of all the great movies dealing with planes and situations. No, it's absolutely, again, no sense whatsoever. Doesn't follow the science. The planes were actually the safest, probably. They had these crazy filters that they mandated right out the gate. And so it makes no sense. They're not following any of the science, but this was, of course, never about the science. Right?
This is what I wanted to ask you, because that's always our criticism, again, outside of Washington, is we always say, you know, these unelected bureaucrats that run things. Mm-hmm. You know,
they live in basements in Washington.
They do, yeah, like, I don't understand. So how is this whole country, it's like in the movie Casino, right? In the movie The De Niro, which is a great movie, right?
Great movie.
But in the movie Casino, which, by the way, Sharon Stone carries the whole film. I love Casino, but her role in that, she's so phenomenal. If we can get into this on the side. Let's
we
stay
need
focused.
to do a whole segment on movies.
We're just going to do movies.
There you go.
Movie talk with Jimmy and Kat. Okay. But in the movie Casino, they always have this fictitious organization running their casinos called Kansas City. Well, they're not happy in Kansas City. Like, our country has a Kansas City, but it's the basement.
It's the basement.
But they're not happy in the basement.
In our nation's capital. That's exactly it. 100%.
But when they make rules like this, okay, because to give you an example, the federal mask mandate where we started, like you said, there is no scientific basis for this. Mm-hmm. An argument could be made that the masks are now making these flights more dangerous. The stat on this, because we cover it every month and gratuitously play that song that I wrote, is there have been 474 mask-related fistfights so far this year on planes. So isn't it simple that, you know, couldn't we simply declare that the mask is doing more harm than good at this point?
I think that's the common sense, logical assumption that can be made. But I'll also add that they stopped the alcohol. On the planes, right? That matters. That makes a difference because for anyone who is a drinker, I mean, that's supposed to calm you down, right? Bring you down a notch.
I have a theory on why this isn't working. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
The fact that they did stop alcohol has turned it into a college football game where people are now getting all their drinking in before they get into the stadium. So people are jumping on the plane at a 9 when they should jump on it at 2. So you're getting more exposure to weapons-grade intoxication. Time was if a guy got on a plane sober and drank his way drunk, you had like 15 minutes with a drunk guy before you landed. Now the guy's drunk as you're walking around telling him to wear a mask he doesn't want to wear.
Exactly.
And we've both seen two versions of this. Most flight attendants did not sign up to be a hall monitor, and they've been put in a very unfortunate position.
Yes.
But at the same time, we all know a few that have.
Oh, man, they thrive on it.
Yes, you've seen it, right? They walk around. Some woman woke up my kid. He's 13. He was sleeping. It's like he's got to put a mask on him.
Over his nose now.
I know. I'm like, what? I'm like, can you put out a cigarette on me too? I'm like, what are you getting out of this? This is terrible.
Now, Jimmy, we know that you like this kind of abuse, but I truly agree with you. There are a few that we have come across that it's a little uncomfy how much they're into it. Mm-hmm. And then they really get into the sauntering up and down the aisle, double checking to make sure that it hasn't slipped beneath your nose.
Well, now this is why I bring this up, and you're spot on with this assessment, is because if people on the most basic scale can get corrupted by this power, mm-hmm. I can't even fathom what the basement people you've described, the basement bureaucrats, how carried away they get. Because like over the weekend, I don't know if you saw this, but the irrelevance is it's killed Fauci. Fauci was happening. He was throwing out first pitches. He was doing a lot of media hit. Fauci likes. He
was on Vogue.
He likes hair and makeup. Like he likes the attention. He likes doing the stuff. And Ukraine has kind of rendered him irrelevant. So he's out there talking right now about more vaccines and more, just throwing stuff out there. Like when a woman's leaving, so you start making big promises. Baby, we were going to go to space, girl. Where you going? Baby, come back. That is Fauci. He's like desperate. He's watching the girl pack the suitcase and leave.
Yes.
But do you think there's a part of him that really did get not drunk on power? Like plastered on power. Drunk on power is you're slurring your speech. Plastered is you're on the bar with no shirt on. Did Fauci get plastered on power?
Fauci was living his best life.
He was.
He realized his best life was being the curmudgeon in control, mm-hmm. and just throwing these random facts out that weren't really facts. They just kind of were things that fit his narrative, right? Mm-hmm. He loved being on the magazine cover. He loved being behind the podium. Mm-hmm. It was a power trip for him, right? Mm-hmm. And you're right. Everything happening in the news has pulled away, and the American people have pulled away. But the scary part, and I think you and I, we relate to this because we came from a totally different world than the political elites, right? Mm-hmm. How quickly people complied. Mm-hmm. They complied, and it's crazy because the Democrat agenda, in my opinion, is big government. You create a bunch of victims, and then you make them dependent on big government, so that you can then maintain control. It's just an agenda of dependency and control. And what better way than to scare people to death? And to this day, I still come across some Karens that will yell at you in a parking lot 40 feet away. You're killing people. I'm like, lady, I'm in a parking lot. We're outside. Like, you're nuts. Like, your attitude is going to kill you.
I had that in the airport. This woman was yelling at a bunch of us for not wearing masks, and I go, ma'am, you don't understand. We're flying Spirit Airlines. We want to die.
And they're going to charge you $10 to wear that mask.
Yeah, they're going to charge you $10 for not registering to die before the flight. They're like, I'm sorry, you got to register online, or it's $20 at the gate if you're going to die here.
Bless Spirit Airlines.
God love them. Kat Cammack is in the house from the great state of Florida. I want to compliment you on something.
Oh gosh.
March the 17th, that was St. Patrick's Day. We were on the air. Mm-hmm. I saw you post online, and I just love the move so much. It's you and your staff having your shamrock shakes for St. Patrick's Day. Right?
Yes.
Which to the untrained eye is like, oh, they're doing the Irish thing. But I know that as you got that picture posted, and the minute it got posted, everybody tapped a Guinness keg. But you threw everyone in Washington off the scent. You see, I see through things. And I saw how pronounced it was. Because, again, anyone could wear like a green hat, or here's my whole staff dressed like leprechauns. We're Irish people. But the fact that you physically got a drink to highlight, well, clearly they're not drinking anything else. Well played.
Listen, I got to give a shout out to our comms team and Adeline, who's in studio with us today. She is as Irish as it gets. I mean, honestly, look at her. She's got the red hair and everything to go with it. She arranged all that. There may have been Baileys involved.
There it is.
The question then becomes, right?
Go ahead.
And it's, you mentioned Guinness. I have a question for you, Jimmy. Is Guinness a light beer?
In theory, no. But why do you say that it is?
Or it's only 4.4%.
Oh, that's why you say it's light, because it doesn't have enough. Because if you drink a Guinness, it's a loaf of bread. I mean, it's heavy. I love it.
Apparently, there is a particular way that you have to drink it so that you get underneath the head of foam. Okay. But this has been a heavily debated issue in Congress here in the last week because, we don't have pressing matters to attend to, like, Afghanistan, Ukraine, border crisis.
But more importantly, there's a pint of Guinness over there. How do we get to the bottom of it, Kat Cammack? Oh, that's fascinating. No, I wanted to commend you on the strategy. That is all. But
he's commending our drinking habits, ladies and gentlemen.
No, I wasn't. I'm so good at radio segues that I out myself for being good at them. I wanted to get into substance because I wanted to talk serious about fentanyl because it's something that's been a hallmark of what you're doing and drawing attention to it. You were the one who came on my show and told me that fentanyl was the leading killer for people between the ages of 18 and 45.
Ooh, good memory. Yes. Yes.
And the fact that it's as prevalent in our society as it is, but it does kind of go unchecked in that there's not a lot of discussion about it outside of people like yourself and people who are prioritizing the border. Isn't that kind of like a basic dereliction of duty when it comes to what we're doing at the border right now?
Well, Jimmy, if you're a Democrat, you don't want to actually deal with the real issues and the facts. And the fact of the matter is that, as you said, between 18 and 45, this is the number one killer. It's not climate change. It's not COVID. It is fentanyl. And my husband is a first responder. He's a firefighter, SWAT medic. He goes to these calls all day, every day. And it's happening in every single neighborhood in America. And it's coming from our southwest border. That's where it is. And I saw it firsthand. I got to tell you the story. We were in Texas, and I took my sheriffs, who are a bunch of crazy Southerners, right? And I love them. God bless them. Man, they rolled in hot with firearms and cowboy hats. And I mean, it was North Florida in the house. And they roll up to the border with me because I wanted them to see firsthand really the crisis playing out, the humanitarian crisis, the public health crisis, the national security crisis. And one of my sheriffs, his name's Billy Woods from Marion County, he pulls up this picture on his phone and he shows it to the Homeland Security investigator agent and says, this was a brick of fentanyl that is enough fentanyl to kill every man, woman, and child in the state of Florida 7 times over. And he says, there's a stamp on here that we cannot figure out. She took one look at it and said, that's a border cartel stamp. That came from right here, this sector, McAllen, Texas.
Get out of here.
That's where they moved their product through. And it was the stamp of the cartel because they're proud of their drugs, their product, right? And that made its way from our southwest border with the raw materials coming in from China, made it all its way into Marion County, Florida, horse country. And from there, it was going to get distributed throughout the community. Now, think about this. As this product is coming across the border, it's getting more valuable, which makes it more dangerous for all of our first responders. They're dealing with this. They're dealing with violent criminals. And the cartels are quite literally subcontracting with American gangs to move their product.
That's insane.
And people wonder why I'm so angry about the defund police movement. It's ludicrous. These are the people on the front lines. You can't defend your hometowns if you can't defend the homeland.
That's a good point.
But that's what's killing us is the fentanyl.
But I mean, I think we could both agree that they're only moving this fentanyl into our country because of climate change. Does anyone
God
take?
Bless you.
Does anyone take? Does anyone in Washington, before we go to break, does anyone in Washington take Kamala Harris seriously?
No.
Not like literally no one.
No, like literally no one. I even have Democrat staffers that tell me, like, we can't, please just put her in a basement somewhere in Washington.
According to you, all the basements are filled, so we got to find something else.
With a whole lot of bureaucrats.
They're sending her on the road. Kat Cammack is not on the road. She is here, and she will be with us after this. It is Fox Across America with Jimmy Failla. Kat Cammack in the house from the 3rd Congressional District of Florida. Fastest hour of my life, by the way.
Hi.
We're playing Woke Rock, which isn't exactly flying off shelves. I got to be honest. We don't sell a lot of copies of that one.
You know, Billy Joel is, he's going to have words with you out on the street.
Uptown person.
Uptown person.
At one point, that was Christy Brinkley, who's now just Uptown person. Sorry, that's all you get, hun.
I forgot to ask you, what are your pronouns? What do you associate with, Jimmy?
Dude. And I don't even know. I don't even know, Kat Cammack. I don't even know anymore. But I wanted to ask you about this. There's a big thing going on in your state of Florida where people want to teach sexual education and sexual gender identity to little kids. This is just me talking to you as a parent. I would not let anyone babysit my kid who wanted to teach them sex ed while I was out of the house. Now, obviously, school is not babysitting. But to some extent, the idea that these kids aren't intellectually developed enough to consent to such activity tells me they shouldn't be taught about it. But I think we have a hard time having honest conversations because they're branding this as something other than it is. Florida, to the best of my recollection, has not banned gay people, have they?
Absolutely not. In fact, we are a very friendly, welcoming, inclusive state. But, all that being said, the craziness around this particular piece of legislation, it's a state bill. The sponsor of it, Representative Joe Harding, he's a friend of mine. He sent me the bill. It's 7 pages.
Oh, I read it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you can read?
Stop. You get out of here. You know what? Listen,
Stop
Kat Cammack, we've been having a nice time, and I don't mean to do this to you, but here it comes.
Get her out. Get her out of here.
They threw the hook. Go ahead. ahead.
So anyways, 7 pages. Nowhere in this legislation does it say anything that the media has made it out to be. Not one thing. And of course, you have Ron DeSantis who gets in front of the press corps and they start hammering him on it. He's like, where in the bill does it say that?
Yeah.
Nowhere. This is simply about saying we do not want our kids in kindergarten through 3rd grade to be discussing sex.
Fair.
I don't think any parent wants their kids having that conversation, especially at that age.
Definitely.
I mean, this is what is so crazy is the left has gone absolutely bonkers.
Yep.
And you said it a little bit, it's not babysitting, but if you talk to some teachers today, given all the requirements and rules and everything that's put on them these days, they feel like they are glorified babysitters.
Yeah.
Which is really, really sad because there's so many incredible, wonderful educators out there. And if we just let them do their job and stop forcing this agenda of wokeism on them and the kids.
Imagine. Well, the point is, and I was going to make this, is that, the Republican Party's on the right side of this one.
Yes.
And I hope there was a lesson learned maybe from the Virginia statewide elections where Glenn Youngkin ran on local issues and actually prioritized the substance of people's lives. Because if the Republican Party does that, Kat Cammack, we're actually going to have a country again someday. Could you imagine? Could you imagine?
Woo! No, it's kitchen table issues. And I tell people all the time, what issues are you talking about at the kitchen table at night? That's what you need to talk about as a leader.
Thank you. And there's no one sitting there right now where they're like, wow, inflation's at a 40-year high. We've got to turn tricks to buy a gallon of gas. But more importantly, do the kindergartners know about sex? Because it's about, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's like we're fighting the wrong battles.
Yes.
Not you, Kat Cammack. You fought all the right ones. Really quick, 30 seconds. Who would throw the best keg party in Congress besides you?
It wouldn't be Byron Donalds. He's more of a bourbon kind of whiskey guy.
He's a smooth criminal.
You know who would?
Who?
Rodney Davis.
Rodney Davis.
Rodney Davis. It would only be Busch Light.
I don't even know if you can get that in a keg. Kat Cammack serving Meisterbrow Ice. Listen, baby girl, we'll always have this.
I love it.
Amazing. We're out of here. Shout out to the great Kat Cammack.